Welcome back inside the den. We got a good one today. Better than ever, I'd say, because instead of Chris Murray, I am joined by Shannon Kelly of Nevada Sportsnet, perhaps one of the greatest journalists in Reno right now.
Oh, well, thank you, Jared. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun. I'm excited to make my Inside the Den debut here in our studio.
Yeah, couldn't be more excited to have you on. We're going to talk kind of your journey through journalism and obviously Nevada softball, which wrapped up a tremendous season. But first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm good.
It's been a good year, right?
It's been a great year. Yeah, things are starting to wind down a little bit, in the high school sports world, in Nevada's sports world for now. There's never really an off season for us, as the Aces are going on, the rodeo will pick up soon, then we have the celebrity golf tournament and the Barracuda, and then right back into football season, Olympics. So it's always a busy time here at NSN, but it's nice to have maybe a slower week than others here and then.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. When I first started working here, I was like, I didn't imagined the spring just being dead. But people always ask me all the time, like, oh, you guys aren't doing anything. I'm sure it's like really slow. I'm like, well, we always find a way.
Mm-hmm.
We always have like stuff to do like throughout the year. So, but especially when the when the ACC rolls around, it becomes a rat race into football season and basketball season. But we really do it all over here. But let's get into your journey. I scooped out your profile on our website, and it says Shannon is a sports reporter who landed her foot in the door at News 4 as an intern back in June of 2016. She was then hired as an associate producer, working behind the scenes to help produce News 4 Today and mornings on Fox 11 morning shows. She earned her first on-air job in the sports department in August of 2018. So you've been at the station going on next June, this June, 15 days now, almost 8 years. Just tell us about your time here at the station and how you've matured throughout those years.
That's a great question. And I think, sometimes I have to step back and think, wow, I've spent, 8 years of my life almost here in this building. And it's pretty crazy because when I had first started as an intern, I would have never imagined that would have been the case. I interned here back the summer of 2016, mainly worked with news, did a little bit of sports as well. I remember going up to my first ever American Century golf tournament because I was interning in the summer because I needed a college credit for an internship as I received my bachelor's degree in journalism from Nevada, and we needed an internship. So I figured, hey, this was my internship. And, at the time I knew I always wanted to do sports, but I was like, hey, let me, give news a try and see. And I knew it was a foot in the door, though, to see kind of just the whole landscape and the whole realm of everything. And then a few months later, a position opened up for an associate producer, and it was a part-time position. And the assistant news director at the time, David Sandler, had reached out to me, and he said, hey, are you interested in this? I think you'd be a good fit. And I jumped on it. I was still in school. I was still playing softball, but they were willing to work with me and work with my schedule. And I didn't have a huge class load coming up for that spring for my final semester. I only had 2 classes. So it was a pretty light schedule, and they were able to make it work. And that's, how I kind of got going. And then produced the morning show for almost 2 years. It was a great experience. I feel like I learned so much and really understand how a lot of different departments work. But I knew quickly into that news wasn't my passion and that wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I knew I wanted to be doing sports. So, I just continued to build my reel, and I would follow, our sports department out at games whenever I could to try and, build my demo reel. And then when I had heard a position was going to open up in 2018, I applied and I said, hey, if it doesn't work, then I'll go out somewhere else. But I was lucky enough at the time that our former sports director, Brian Smudio, had hired me, and that was how I got my start. And then we launched NSN a couple months later. So pretty crazy that I am still here now. It's 2024. I don't think, even in that moment when I had first landed my job on air here doing sports in 2018, that I would still be here today, honestly. But just what we've been able to do at NSN is so unique, and I'm so grateful for every opportunity that's came along the way because we're so unique, compared to every other local TV station that does sports in our country, really.
Yeah, we have something in common. While you're actively working in news, you were finishing up at J school at the University of Nevada. One of, I want to say one of three NSN members that have graduated from the J school. But while I got my job here, I also finished up at a school of journalism at Walter Cronkite through Arizona State. Just kind of like talk about how going through an institution like college and and at the same time working in news really just kind of set you up for success because you're almost getting two educations at once.
Pretty much. And I think that's a great way to look at it because there's so much that you learn in the classroom and then there's so much that you learn in the field. And I can imagine this goes for any job, really, how much more that you learn once you're really hands-on in the day-to-day life of the working world. And yeah, it was, trying to balance that. And also when I was, working in news, I was also getting my master's in higher education. So, I was taking classes still in the afternoon and at night and then waking up at, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., depended on the day, really.
It's a grind.
To come produce the morning show. So yeah, totally. It was a grind and just trying to balance those two. I think it was tough at times depending with what, classwork you had and, in news, my schedule was pretty much the same for the most part. It's not like I was really working weekends here, but I was always trying to go out and go to games when I could or, so it was like I was doing a lot. But what about you? What can you say about how was that trying to balance finishing up your degree and working full time in sports?
Yeah, it's you make time for both. I know when you work a job that becomes like your priority. But really it's just balancing the time between the two and it's just like after working that 9 to 5 going home and then being like luckily for me is it's online, so a lot of the curriculum can be done just at home on a laptop. So it was just like going home, taking that extra step, going online, going through classes, and then being like, well, I already learned this at my job, but let's just continue it.
For sure.
But it sets you up well, definitely, just because it's two things at once, but you further immerse yourself, and then I think the thing that college teaches you is how to manage time management, and then accountability with turning stuff in. And then obviously, you could skip a quiz or skip that, and you think you're fine, your freshman or sophomore year. You end up skipping classes, but once you enter the world of the profession, you don't have that option. A deadline's a deadline.
Right.
And that's when those two worlds meet. I think you start to develop better habits, and just you start developing overall as a better professional because. Just early on in college, you could be a little bit of a slacker, and that was me certainly early in my college years. But then, it finally clicked when I was here, and I feel like I've developed in the past few years, and I think that's the thing that's unique about NSN. I always talk about with Rez, he's our director of operations here. But he talks about, just trying to get 1% better every day. But he also talks about the maturation that this place allows people to have. And I'm certain that you've experienced that over your 7+ years with NSN. You probably weren't the reporter you were today in 2018. And you have to take your bruises, but you get better each day you come in.
100%. I go back and I look at old stories and things now, and I'm like, man, what was I thinking? I can't believe they hired me even,
Right.
I go back and look at stuff, but I think it's, and it's hard sometimes too when you're constantly go to sit back and reflect on wow, what have we done or what have I done or how have I grown? And, that's sometimes not always easy to see. And yeah, it is pretty crazy though to think back when you're okay, what was I doing then versus what am I doing now?
Absolutely. And we'll take a dive into your athletic background. First off, you grew up in, was it Henderson or Vegas?
I grew up in Las Vegas.
Las
Centennial.
Vegas. Cool. You grew up there. you probably view the North from a different light at the time. You're like, stinking Reno,
Yeah, that's exactly honestly what I was thinking. Yeah, you're not wrong.
But you eventually did make your way up here. You stopped at a JC first. I remember you first telling me you were a teammate of one of my high school, friends at the time, Amanda Karras.
Yep.
Was the JC? I forgot what was the city.
Santa Barbara City
Santa
College.
Barbara. Okay, so you made your way to Santa Barbara City College a couple of years, and then you made your way up to Reno. Just talk about that path, and then eventually transitioning from Vegas, Santa Barbara to cold Reno.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy journey. Yeah, so I mean, I grew up playing softball, and then I actually had stopped playing for probably, maybe like 4 or 5 years. Like I had stopped playing, probably about 4 years. And then I realized one day I was like, yeah, I want to play again. And this was right before my sophomore year of high school. Like I decided, I was like, I really actually miss playing softball because I had started playing volleyball and running track and field. And I liked doing both of those, but I just realized it wasn't what I really wanted to be doing still. So my dad actually thought I was kind of crazy when I was like, I want to play softball again. And he was like, really? And so, so I started playing again and then went to a junior college, went to Santa Barbara City College for 2 years. Went there, played softball there under Paula Congleton. She was the coach at the time. She then had moved on and went to coach at New Mexico after that. And so I went on there and then came up to Reno. And my first year here, I actually wasn't even on the softball team. Pretty crazy. I had been talking with the coach at the time, Matt Michael. I had been chatting with him as I was wrapping up my time in Santa Barbara and when I had gotten on campus here. And ironically, I had just lived with some girls, though, on the team. I had lived with some softball players and moved in with them. And, the first semester, I'll be honest, I hated Reno. I was like, maybe I should just transfer back home and just go to UNLV. It just wasn't, I felt like, man, like this just isn't for me. Like I'm not playing softball either. So it was kind of hard. But then I was like, yeah, let me give it another semester a try. And, it started to grow on me a little bit. And then it was heading into my second year here that I had gotten a call from Coach Matt Michael at the time. And he said, hey, I want you to come walk on to the team. I want you to come play. And I said, all right. I was like, I haven't, picked up a bat or a ball in a little bit of time now. But, I ended up playing then for 2 seasons and it was awesome. I mean, my experience at Nevada was awesome. I think, some of my closest friends I had met while I was playing here and the university means so much to me and what it was able to give to me because, my journey wasn't like most, softball players who had been playing travel ball for 10 years of their life and then going on straight to a Division I school. So my journey was different and it was pretty crazy, but here we are.
Yeah. Just what does that program mean to you?
It means a lot. I think, at the time, Matt Michael was my coach for 1 season, and then Josh Taylor, who was an assistant coach with the Wolfpack, he had taken over once Matt Michael had left to become an assistant at Arkansas. And, having both of them as my coaches, gave me a lot of different perspective and having so many different teammates, even like from both of those seasons and then even my time in Santa Barbara. But I mean, it means so much to me because it gave me an opportunity that quite honestly, I never thought that I would have had. And, I've had so many memories there and it's like, you don't even remember necessarily all the games. Like you just remember like the memories that you have traveling with your teammates and, the memories that you have at the field, your senior day. Like those are things that I remember, not necessarily like the wins and losses and how we did. We didn't make it to NCAA regionals. When I was playing, we didn't have a Mountain West tournament. Like that wasn't a thing yet. Again, I should say. So yeah, it means a lot. And just the memories that I made with friends and teammates and, the resources that Nevada was able to give me as a student athlete, that I didn't necessarily have when I was just a regular student for a year.
You really come full circle. I mean, from that moment of being like, maybe I don't want to be here anymore, to integrating yourself with Nevada softball, working at NSN, and becoming a local figure. You recently had the opportunity to MC was it the PAC Awards? What were those called?
It was the University of Nevada's, the College of Business, their sports summit. So
Summit.
I helped MC that.
Yeah.
And then I was a part of the inaugural, the America First Credit Union banquet that we had with the scholar athletes from high school students. So I was able to help with both of those.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just talk about, like how that feels, just to like kind of take a step back and be like, wow, I could have left this place, but now it's like a key part of like you overall. Right?
100%, it is, and yeah, that's a great way to put it, because after I had helped MC the event up in Lake Tahoe for the College of Business for their annual sports summit, John Fisher was the keynote speaker with University President Brian Sandoval, and just to be able to help with an event that had so much magnitude and to see so many familiar faces there who had worked in the athletic department when I was playing at Nevada. Former Nevada Athletic Director Carrie Groth is the director of the program, and she was one of my mentors when I was receiving my master's in higher education, when she was a big part of the College of Ed at the time before it had transitioned over into the business school. She's one of my mentors, and it's crazy just to sit back and think like, wow, like if I would have left, none of this would have happened. Who knows what my career would have looked like? Because quite honestly, I probably would have just went to UNLV and probably just gone for hospitality, to be honest, because I was, working my summers at the Wynn, at the pool. I was lifeguarding there, and I was like, hey, I could just go to school here at UNLV and just go into hospitality, and that was kind of what my plan was going to be if I would have just stayed at home. So yeah, it is crazy to think, sitting back, like hosting, events, or just to be able to be a part of this community, because it is a community. And I think, Las Vegas is a lot bigger than here, and there's not necessarily that community feel all the time because it is so much bigger. Whereas here, it's such a tight-knit community, especially in the sports world.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in a few cities, and yeah, it's you think of it as the city and like like a vibrance of a city, but you don't get that tight knit closeness. I mean, both have their individual merits, but for sure Reno's definitely unique. But let's transition into Nevada softball. You were just recently in Boise for the Mountain West tournament. Great start, terrible finish, but a good year overall. I mean, 40 wins. It's a historic mark for the program. Great power numbers. They might have been done under by pitching, lack of pitching. But just give us your analysis of the season, and if Marina DeMore should get the coaching job, because she has that interim tag still on her.
Yeah, I think, Nevada had a really good season. I mean, you look, 40 wins. They went 40-17 overall, the second most wins in school history, along with the 2009 team. I think Marina did a great job. I think she deserves the head coaching job. I think it was a tough situation, I can imagine, for these girls who had found out, hey, we just lost our coach right when school started. And I have been there before in that spot, because we had learned that Matt was leaving right as school was starting, Coach Matt Michael, and so then it's like, hey, we don't have a coach at the time. And I think for Marina to be able to step in, I mean, this team set program records, home runs, its batting average. I mean, you look, Nevada's pitching staff did a great job all season and at the Mountain West tournament. I mean, they allowed 9 runs in 4 games, and 3 of those runs were home runs. I mean, I don't really think you can ask for much more. And, in those 2 games on the Friday against San Diego State and Boise State, Nevada's bats just couldn't get going. I mean, to be held to just 7 hits in 2 games, that's tough. You're probably not going to win a lot of games, especially in this tournament type setting when everyone is trying to play their best ball, because that's the only way you're going to get a bid into the NCAA tournament, is to earn that automatic qualifier. So I think, it was definitely a tough ending, for them to see how far they got. But I think, this can only help the program moving forward, like to help, recruits want to come in and say, oh, wow, these girls, they won 40 games. Like, what do they have going on at Nevada? They have a brand new field now at Nevada. It's only its second season that they've been playing on that turf. So I think, it was tough to see how it all kind of unfolded for them, knowing how close they got, and just knowing too how many seniors that they have, because next year will be a rebuild. They're losing almost a dozen seniors. That's a lot, and only hopefully good things up from here, right?
Yeah, certainly. Just talk about kind of the projection going forward. I know, bats like Gabby Herrera or a pitcher like Tyra Clary. It was a senior year. But you do return if she ends up staying. Elia Jenkins, she's a junior. But I'd imagine the rest of the roster is fairly young and wet behind the ears, so to speak.
Yeah, I think, and it is interesting because, Blake Kraft and Carly Brown, they're out of eligibility. Tyra Clary does still have another year of eligibility, but she did walk on her senior day. So we're not, we asked her during the season towards the end, what she's planning on doing, and she wasn't too sure at the time. Aaliyah Jenkins, she's a junior. But yeah, I mean, you lose, a good core of your girls who have been there, and that veteran leadership and that veteran experience. A girl like Chelly Sanini, who's been a staple in Nevada's outfield now for 4 to 5 seasons. I mean, this was her 5th year at Nevada. She had her COVID year, so that was, her first year was cut down significantly. But, I mean, you look at a girl who was a 4-time All-Mountain West first-team player who holds Nevada's record in stolen bases, just having her presence leading off, having Gabby Herrera, who's become a staple in right field and in Nevada's cleanup spot. I mean, to set the new single season record with 17 home runs, like just losing, those pieces. But then it's like, hey, how does a girl like Bailey Clark, how does she step up next year? We saw, when she stepped in for Chelly Sanini at the Mountain West tournament, playing in center field, moving over and playing in center and hitting in the leadoff spot, and what she was able to do. So I think there's great things on the horizon for the program, and hopefully the girls who weren't playing this year were able to learn a lot from those seniors, because I think that's invaluable. And now it's a matter of, okay, there's positions that will be open next season. Who's going to be the one that's going to step up and take those spots?
Yeah, certainly it feels like a program that is ascending. And, certainly dating back to your time, even before, we talk about just the maturation of the program from, getting dressed out of shipment containers to getting that stadium renovation. Talk about the trajectory of this program and how it could potentially turn into a powerhouse of the Mountain West.
I think it can. I think, you look at what Nevada has done. I think they've made a lot of facility upgrades. When you look at, the new turf, you look at the scoreboard, you look at, their makeshift lockers at the field right now. I mean, we didn't have any of those new things per se. I don't know what it was like, 6-8 years before when the team started playing at Hickson. I don't know what the field looked like then compared to when I had played. But I think that, I think the more that they can continue to improve the facilities, right, that's only going to help. I was pretty surprised when I went to Boise State, to see all the bleachers that they had put in. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool that they were able to invest this, because that wasn't there when I had played. The new lights, those weren't there at Boise when I had played. So it's like, I think everywhere, you have to continue to step up if you want to get the best players. And how are you going to, attract and retain the best players? But I think only good things are on the horizon for sure.
Do you think with the upgrades and future investment that Nevada could potentially host a Mountain West tournament?
Well, I think, that would have happened if Nevada had won the Mountain West regular season title. They would have hosted next year, because that's how, it does work for softball. So next year, San Diego State will host the Mountain West tournament since they won the regular season title outright. So, yeah, I mean, Nevada then would have had to find a way to get lights, just like Boise State did this past season, because they didn't have lights last year, but they had to get them for this past season because of the tournament. So, yeah, I think, it's tough when, you're competing against these big powerhouses, in the SEC. The SEC softball is a completely different beast compared to any other league per se. But I think that, Stephanie Remp, the Nevada Athletics Director, I think she's done a great job improving facilities for women's sports across the entire campus in her short tenure that she's been here so far. And, that's with University President Brian Sandoval too, knowing that it's important to invest in women's sports and to upgrade these facilities that haven't been upgraded for so many years. And there's been progress that's been made, and that's nice to see. It really is.
Yeah, certainly, because they've outside of men's basketball have been like the second most successful program on campus over the past few years. And as you said, yeah, like winning can cure a lot of things.
100%.
But yeah, if you force somebody's hand to put lights in and have more night games, not that the day games are bad, but more night games means potentially more attendance. The math is math in there. But yeah, we'll be right back. We'll wrap it up with Shannon after this. Welcome back inside the den. Continuing my conversation here with Shannon Kelly. Shannon, we were just talking about Nevada softball. Let's draw it back a little bit. Now, a nugget or a piece of Shannon Kelly trivia that most people don't know is that she used to wait at Archie's.
I did.
How was that?
I did. So funny enough, I had started that when I first had moved here. I was a food runner at the time when I had first started, because you have to be 21 to be a server or a bartender in Nevada. So, yeah, so I had started off there as a food runner and then worked my way up to be a server and bartender there. And, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I feel like just, seeing a lot of Wolfpack fans being so close to the university and just how passionate so many of them were. And I remember that place was just full, like before Wolfpack men's basketball games, when Eric Musselman was here, that place would be full, like 2 to 3 hours before tip-off. But yeah, so along with playing softball and going to school and, all those things, I mean, obviously my time there working was, pretty limited during season and whatnot, but during the summers and the falls, yeah, when I had worked there. So it was great. And I can't thank, the owner enough, Todd, for letting me balance working there along with, my school schedule and my softball schedule. And, that was great because, it was something I still had to do to make a little bit of money at the time. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Favorite menu item?
Oh man, this is a tough one. Well, I love the breakfast burrito, which I know is Krista Palmer's, her favorite and her go-to. Funny enough, because she used to always come in when I'd be working and she would order a breakfast burrito with fruit. And so that was always one of my favorites. And then also the sourdough cheeseburger was one of my favorites too. Had to get it with blue cheese though. I'm a big blue cheese gal.
I like blue cheese. I also like the sourdough cheeseburger. It's a unique menu item at Archie's.
Is that your?
Yeah, I go with that. But we usually go for breakfast. So I end up getting like the eggs Benedict. Or,
okay.
Just switching it up. But honestly, like just like being there like on a football Sunday and like having a burger and a beer, like it's hard to beat. But funny enough, I just had my teeth cleaned, and the girl that cleans my teeth is also a bartender at Archie's.
Oh.
And she's like, oh yeah, it's slowing, it's ramping up. It's graduation week, but I'm ready for these kids to be out of here. I'm like, oh yeah, like wouldn't you like it? She's like, yeah, but it's always busy, but they don't really tip well,
Yeah, that is also. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
As well, Emily.
Yes.
Yeah, she was working there when I was too. Yeah, and that to her point, yeah, students Not necessarily always the best tippers, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay. That makes it. That's part of the charm of
Yeah.
Archie's.
Right.
Before we get out of here, Shannon, I know, you're very comfortable here at NSN, but you can kind of talk about future aspirations, potentially in Vegas or potentially elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, with the opportunities of what I've gotten to do here, I've certainly done a lot more than I think I ever would here. Las Vegas is my home, and to see how Las Vegas has grown in the sporting, world now. I mean, it wasn't like this 10 years ago or when I was growing up there. So, that's certainly always been on my mind of, working in my hometown. That's definitely a huge goal of mine in this industry of, wanting to, be a part of my hometown sports scene. So that's a goal, and kind of just taking life as it comes to see what other opportunities might be next for me. I'm not too sure at the moment. I feel like that's such an open-ended question when people do ask, because, what other opportunities are there outside of the business too that maybe I'm interested in someday. But Las Vegas is my hometown, and, it would be a dream to work in my hometown. So we'll see.
Well, Reno wouldn't hate you for it. I'd say that. They probably just would cheer you on. And yeah, Vegas has turned into a entertainment capital and sports capital. And, obviously I could see the Athletics are supposed to move there, but we have no clue what is going on with the A's these days. But I could certainly see like an NBA expansion team going there. And then you have a lot of major sports down there. So definitely not a bad option, but I think we like having you here right now. And before we go, just let the people know what you have going on in your life, either professionally or, personally.
Yeah, this summer will be a fun one. I got a few camping trips planned. I'm making a trip to Canada as well. My first time going
Canada.
international in, gosh, more than 10 years.
Yeah, we're in Canada.
Going to Saskatchewan.
Oh.
And going to Banff. So my boyfriend's family lives in Canada, in Saskatchewan area. So take a trip and go up there and meet them and visit with them, and then head over to Banff. So I'm really excited for that, and just excited for summer. Summer's my favorite season. So excited to just be outside and enjoy a little bit of downtime and take some vacations before football gets going full steam here in a few months.
It'll be here as soon as you know it. And is your boyfriend Canadian?
He is.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like naturally born Canadian?
Well, so his dad was born in Canada, so
Okay.
he automatically has dual citizenship. So he
cool.
actually went to school up in Canada at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon, and he played football there. So, yeah, he lived up there for quite a bit. So he has passports for both American and, yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
Canadian. Yeah.
Well, Shannon, I can't thank you enough for joining us. It's been long overdue, and hopefully we have you on in future episodes to talk more sports and journalism.
Thank you, Jared. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks to all of our NSN viewers who always watch us. We wouldn't be able to do it without you guys and listen to the podcast here. We really do appreciate it, and it means a lot to us that we have such a strong following here in Northern Nevada.
We appreciate you guys. And, don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, wherever you guys get this podcast. We'll be back next time.